5 years passed since the signing of the Sol Accords. The galaxy changed in ways no one could have predicted. On a space station built in neutral territory between Earth and Valoris Prime, representatives from 37 species gathered. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, the circular chamber had seats for all member worlds. At the center podium stood Admiral Alison Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's representative to the Council. Her uniform bore the simple emblem of United Earth rather than any single nation. 5 years ago, many thought peace impossible, she said to the assembled delegates. Today, we welcome our newest member, the free people of Tertius, formerly under Valorian control. A small, six-limbed being moved to take the Tertius seat. Applause filled the chamber from most delegates, though some Valorians remained silent. In another part of the station, Eric Sanderson led a team of scientists from multiple species. They worked on technology that would benefit all worlds rather than giving military advantage to any single power. The energy conversion is stable, reported Vila, the former junior Valorian researcher who now worked as Eric's deputy. This will help terraform the damaged worlds in the outer systems. Eric nodded, pleased with their progress. Send the data to the agricultural teams. They can begin planning crop modifications for the new environments. Their lab exemplified the new cooperation between species. Technologies that had once been closely guarded military secrets were now shared for common benefit. The Valorians contributed their advanced propulsion systems, while humans offered their unique approach to problem-solving and adaptation. On the reformed Valorian homeworld, now called the Valorian Republic, Keith Martinez served as Earth's first ambassador. He walked through a public garden with former Emperor Draknar, now serving as an advisor to the new government. The transition hasn't been easy, Draknar admitted, his scales showing muted colors of concern. 3,000 years of empire cannot be undone in 5. Keith nodded. Change takes time. Earth went through its own painful transitions. But look there. He pointed to a schoolyard where young Valorians played alongside children from formerly subjugated species. They were growing up without the old prejudices. The next generation will find it easier, Keith said. Not all went smoothly in these 5 years. Some Valorian military leaders resisted the new order. Rebellions flared on the edges of former imperial space. But each time, a coalition of species, including reformed Valorian forces, worked together to restore peace. In the Council Archives Room, a special document was displayed in a prominent case, officially titled Interspecies Contact Protocols. It was known throughout the galaxy by a different name, the Human Warning Label. A group of visitors from a newly discovered world read the first lines with interest. When encountering intelligent species, particularly humans of Sol III, aggressive action is strongly contraindicated. Unlike most evolved predator species, humans combine predatory instincts with pack-bonding behaviors, extreme adaptability, and unprecedented threat response escalation. Professor Linda Hayes guided the visitors through the exhibit. This document is now standard procedure for all first contact situations, she explained. It has prevented 3 potential conflicts already. At the edge of known space, a new species detected signals from the galactic community. The Draconids were powerful. With bony armor and natural weapons evolved from their harsh homeworld, they had conquered 2 neighboring planets already and saw themselves as invincible. Their supreme commander reviewed the intercepted human warning document and laughed, a harsh sound of disbelief. More weak species trying to protect themselves. With words, he told his war council. Prepare the scout ships. This Earth sounds like a valuable target. In the council chambers, alarms sounded as long-range sensors detected unknown ships approaching from unexplored space. Admiral Rodriguez studied the readings with a practiced eye. Not again, she sighed. But there was no real surprise in her. Royce Keith Martinez, back from Valoris for the emergency session, stood beside her. Some species just have to learn the hard way. Beside them, Draknar's scales shifted to the blue of wisdom learned through pain. We were fortunate. You showed restraint with us. Will you show the same restraint with these newcomers? Asked a council member from a distant world. Rodriguez looked at the approaching ships on the display. That depends entirely on them. We don't write history, we write warning labels. She turned to the communications officer. Send them the standard greeting and the warning. Let's see if they're smarter than we were. Emperor Draknar sat across from the human representatives in the grand meeting hall of his palace. His imperial robes seemed too large for him now, his defeat visible in the dull color of his scales. Admiral Rodriguez placed a datapad on the table between them. These are our terms. The Emperor didn't touch it. Why have you not simply destroyed us? You clearly have the ability. Eric Sanderson looked puzzled. Why would we want to destroy an entire civilization? It is what we would have done, Draknar admitted. It is what we have done to those who resisted too strongly. Professor Linda Hayes, now serving as the xenocultural advisor to the human delegation, leaned forward. That is precisely the difference between our species, Emperor. Humans learned long ago that cooperation yields better results than domination. Your history records suggest otherwise, the Emperor countered. You have fought countless wars among yourselves. Yes, Admiral Rodriguez acknowledged. And each time we learned something, we evolved, not just technologically, but culturally. One of the Valorian advisors, a young female who looked familiar, spoke up. I was on the first contact vessel. I warned Kraxthor that humans showed unusual adaptability metrics. Eric recognized her. You're Vila, the junior researcher. She nodded, her scales shifting to a respectful blue. I studied your species briefly. You have something we lack. You expect disaster. You plan for it. The Valorian Empire has been the apex predator for so long that we lost that ability. Emperor Draknar finally picked up the datapad and reviewed the human terms. His eyes widened in surprise. These are not what I expected, he admitted. The term stated that the Valorian Empire would cease all expansionist activities, free its subjugated worlds, and enter a galactic council where all species would have equal representation. There was no demand for the Emperor to step down, no crippling reparations, no permanent occupation. We don't want to rule you, Admiral Rodriguez explained. We want to live in a galaxy where no species thinks they have the right to dominate others. And if we refuse? Draknar asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Eric spoke plainly. Then we continue what we started. We've already contacted 7 of your subject species. 3 have already overthrown their Valorian governors. This was news to the Emperor. His scales paled. How is this possible? We shared technology with them, Linda explained. But more importantly, we shared ideas. Freedom is a powerful concept. A hardline Valorian military officer stepped forward. This is outrageous. We should fight to the last rather than submit to these terms. Admiral Rodriguez fixed her calm gaze on him. You're welcome to try. But consider this, we defeated your finest fleet at Earth. We penetrated your defenses and reached your homeworld with minimal losses. What exactly do you think would happen in a prolonged conflict? The officer's scales darkened with rage, but he had no answer. Emperor Draknar raised a hand to silence further protests. There is a question I must ask. Why have you shown such restraint? You could have bombarded our cities from orbit. You could have destroyed our civilization. Linda nodded to Rodriguez, who answered carefully. Because that's not who we are. At least it's not who we're trying to be. Humans have a violent past, yes, but we're working toward a better future. Vila stepped closer to the Emperor. I have studied their history, my lord. When humans achieve victory, they often rebuild what they destroyed. They did this after their own world wars. It is unusual behavior for apex predators. We're not apex predators, Eric said quietly. We're survivors. There's a difference. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. The entire room waited for his decision. Finally, his scales shifted to a deep gold color, a sign of formal acceptance in Valorian culture. I will sign your Sol Accords, he said. Not because we have no choice, but because you have shown us a different path, one that 3,000 years of conquest never revealed. As the formal documents were prepared, Draknar approached Admiral Rodriguez privately. There will be resistance, he warned. Many of my people will not accept this new reality easily. Rodriguez nodded. We expect that. Change is never easy. You could have destroyed us, the Emperor said again, still seeming puzzled by human restraint. Why offer peace instead? Linda Hayes answered him with a simple truth. Because humans don't want to be feared. We'd rather be respected. 6 months after the Great Battle in Earth's orbit, a human fleet approached Valoris Prime, the heart of the alien empire. The ships were a mix of Earth and Valorian technology, commanded by Admiral Allison Rodriguez. Her promotion had come after the victory that saved Earth, though at terrible cost. She stood on the bridge of the flagship now named Winter's Revenge, after the captain who had sacrificed himself to destroy one of the Emperor's command ships. The battle had ended with half the Imperial fleet destroyed and the Emperor himself retreating in shame. We're entering the Valorian home system, reported the navigation officer. Admiral Rodriguez nodded. All ships maintain formation. Remember, the plan. Eric Sanderson, now head of the Xenotechnology Division, checked readings on his console. Their defense grid is exactly where the captured data said it would be. The human fleet had bypassed most of the Empire's outer defenses using innovative applications of the captured Valorian technology. Eric's team had found weaknesses in the alien systems that the Valorians themselves had never considered. They're detecting us now, said Communications Officer Greg Miller. We're receiving warnings in multiple frequencies. Send our message, ordered Rodriguez. All channels, all languages we've decoded. Across the Valorian home system, on military, bases and civilian homes alike, screens displayed the human message. We come not for conquest or vengeance, but to end a threat. Your leadership has been warned repeatedly about engaging with humanity. On Valoris Prime, Emperor Draknar was in emergency council with his advisors when the news arrived. Impossible, he roared. How did they penetrate our defensive lines? His military commander looked terrified. Unknown, Emperor. They simply appeared in the inner system. Launch all remaining ships, Draknar ordered. Protect the homeworld at all costs. The Valorian home fleet rose to meet the human ships, but instead of engaging in full combat, the human fleet split into precise groups with clear targets. They bypassed civilian areas entirely, focusing their attacks on military installations and government facilities. They're not targeting our cities, noted one of the Emperor's advisors with surprise. They want something, Draknar said, his eyes narrowing. Find out what it is. On the surface of Valoris Prime, human dropships deployed ground forces. Among them was Marine Sergeant Keith Martinez, leading a squad through the streets of the Valorian capital. Remember, we're not here to hurt civilians, he told his team. Military targets only. As they moved toward a communications hub, they encountered a group of Valorian civilians trapped by fallen debris from an orbital strike. Without hesitation, Martinez ordered his squad to help. The Valorians cowered at first, expecting the worst, from the alien invaders. They had been told humans were savage primitives. Instead, they watched in confusion as the human soldiers carefully removed the debris and helped the injured. News of this spread quickly through the Valorian population. The invaders weren't behaving like any enemy they had ever known. In orbit, Admiral Rodriguez received the report from ground forces. Good. Make sure all teams understand we're not here for revenge. Eric looked up from his station. The main government complex is directly ahead. Our scans show the Emperor is inside. Bring us into position, Rodriguez ordered. Prepare. The landing team. The Valorian military, despite their physical advantages, found themselves outmatched by human tactical adaptability and psychological resilience. The humans didn't fight according to any patterns the Valorians recognized. They changed strategies constantly, adapted to new threats immediately, and showed a tenacity that stunned the alien defenders. In his palace, Emperor Draknar watched the battle unfold on tactical displays. His military was failing him. His fleet was in disarray. How can this be happening, he demanded of no one in particular. These are primitives. His chief scientist, an older Valorian who had reviewed the reports from the first contact team, spoke quietly. They are not primitives, Emperor. We simply failed to understand what they are. Before Draknar could respond, the palace shook from a precision strike. The humans had disabled the shield generators. "Emperor," said his security chief, "they're requesting your surrender and a meeting with their representatives." Draknar's scales shifted through colors of rage, fear, and finally, resignation. What choice do I have? Hours later, Admiral Rodriguez and Eric Sanderson stood in the grand hall of the Valorian Imperial Palace. Elite human soldiers flanked them as Emperor Draknar entered, surrounded by his own guards. "You have invaded the heart of the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known," the Emperor said, his translator conveying his words. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Rodriguez stepped forward. "What we've wanted from the beginning. Peace on equal terms. An assurance that your empire will never threaten Earth or any other peaceful world again." Eric added, "We've already made contact with several of the species you've conquered. They're overthrowing your overlords as we speak." On the Valorian homeworld, Emperor Draknar stood alone in his private chamber. The reports from Earth had left him stunned. A defeat was unthinkable. In 3,000 years of conquest, the Empire had never failed. His chief advisor entered and bowed low. "Emperor, the full council awaits your orders." Draknar's scales shifted to a deep purple, showing his rage. "Prepare the Imperial fleet, all of it." The advisor's four eyes widened. "The entire fleet? For one primitive world?" "These primitives destroyed or captured an attack force led by our most experienced admiral," Draknar hissed. "I will not underestimate them again. On Earth, nations that were once enemies now work together with single-minded purpose. The captured Valorian ships provided technology beyond human understanding. But Eric Sanderson's team worked day and night to learn their secrets." Colonel Rodriguez walked through a hangar where engineers modified Earth's ships with alien technology. She stopped beside a fighter jet now equipped with Valorian shield generators. "Will it work?" she asked the chief engineer. The woman wiped grease from her hands. "In theory, the power requirements are enormous, but we've adapted their energy systems to our designs." "We need more than theories," Rodriguez said. "The Valorians will be back and with greater numbers." In a different facility, Professor Linda Hayes studied Valorian biology from the captured crew members. She looked up as Frank Miller entered her lab. "Any insights that might help us?" he asked. Linda pointed to brain scans on her screen. "Their neural pathways are fascinating. They process fear differently than humans do. They simply don't have our capacity for desperate innovation." "Meaning what, exactly?" "Meaning they've never had to fight with their backs against the wall," Linda explained. "When a species is the apex predator for millennia, they lose the ability to adapt quickly." 6 months passed. Earth's defenses grew stronger each day as humans incorporated Valorian technology into their own designs. Then the early warning system detected movement at the edge of the solar system. In the command center, Eric studied the incoming data. His face paled. "This isn't a battle fleet, it's an armada." Colonel Rodriguez looked at the screen. Hundreds of ships, far more than they had faced before, approached in tight formation. "They're not taking any chances this time," she said grimly. The Yar, largest ship in the center of the formation, carried Emperor Draknar himself. He had never personally overseen a conquest before, but these humans had wounded his pride. "Send the ultimatum," he ordered. The message reached Earth minutes later. "Surrender immediately or face complete annihilation." World leaders gathered in emergency session. Some argued for surrender, believing the odds too great. Others insisted on fighting to the last. Frank Miller addressed the assembly. "We have one advantage they don't expect. The Valorians rely on overwhelming force, but they've never faced an enemy that thinks like humans do." Colonel Rodriguez outlined a daring plan. Instead of defending Earth directly, they would use a strategy the Valorians would never anticipate, one that seemed completely irrational. When the Imperial fleet arrived, they found Earth's orbit suspiciously empty. Their long-range scans detected minimal defensive preparations on the planet. "It appears they've hidden their forces," said the Emperor's tactical advisor. Draknar made a dismissive gesture. "Scan for cloaked ships or hidden bases." The probes reported only scattered defenses, nothing that could stand against the Imperial fleet. They must have surrendered without announcing it, suggested another advisor. Or perhaps they fled, Riaowam. Emperor wasn't convinced. Begin the invasion, but approach with caution. The massive fleet moved toward Earth, weapons charged. As they entered the optimal attack range, sensors suddenly detected energy signatures all around them. Ambush! Shouted the tactical officer. Human ships appeared from behind Earth's moon, from low orbit positions, and from hiding places among the asteroids. They had used modified Valorian cloaking technology that the Imperial sensors couldn't detect. What followed was the largest space battle in human history. The Valorians had superior numbers and firepower, but the humans fought, with tactics that the aliens considered insane, sacrificing ships to create openings, executing maneuvers that put their own vessels at risk, and using psychological warfare to confuse enemy commanders. On his flagship, Emperor Draknar watched in disbelief as his carefully organized fleet fell into disarray. How are they doing? This? They're just primitives. His advisor stared at the tactical display showing losses across the fleet. They're not fighting according to any rational doctrine, Emperor. They're fighting like cornered animals. Miles away in the battle, Captain Steve Winters' ship took a direct hit. Systems failing, he made a decision. Set collision course. With that command vessel, he ordered. His crew didn't question the suicidal command. They understood what was at stake. Admiral Zextral watched with satisfaction as his flagship's main weapon charged. The targeting system locked onto the human city called New York. Soon these primitive creatures would understand the futility of resistance. Weapon at full charge. Admiral, reported his weapons officer. Fire, Zextral ordered. Nothing happened. I said fire, he repeated, his scales darkening with anger. The weapons officer tapped frantically at the controls. System not responding, sir. Something is interfering. With alarms blared across the ship. On the main screen, small objects appeared, rising from Earth's atmosphere. What are those? Demanded Zextral. His sensor officer looked confused. They appear to be primitive missiles, but they're moving too fast. The missiles weren't aimed at the flagship. Instead, they streaked toward the smaller ships in the fleet. Before the Valorian vessels could react, the missiles detonated not with explosions but with pulses of energy that the Valorians had never seen before. 2 ships went dark immediately. Their systems shut down completely. Impossible, whispered Zextral on Earth in the underground command center. Eric Sanderson watched the data stream in. The EM pulse weapons worked. 2 ships disabled. Colonel Rodriguez nodded. Launch Phase 2. Larger vessels now rose from hidden bases on Earth. They were human-built but incorporated elements of Valorian technology that Eric's team had reverse-engineered. In orbit, Zextral's shock turned to rage. Return fire! Destroy those ships! But the Valorian fleet was in disarray. Their weapon systems, designed to deal with known alien technology, struggled to lock on to the hybrid human vessels. Their ships are using modified versions of our own shielding, reported a panicked officer. Our targeting systems can't distinguish them from friendly vessels. Zextral slammed his fist down. Override the safety protocols. Fire on anything that moves. As the Valorians adjusted their weapons, human ships executed maneuvers that seemed suicidal. They flew dangerously close to the Valorian vessels, making it difficult to fire without risking friendly fire. In one human ship, Captain, Steve Winters gripped his controls tightly. Just like the simulations, he muttered. They can't adapt to unpredictable flight patterns. His co-pilot, Lieutenant Carla Diaz, checked their position. 10 seconds until we're in position to deploy the boarding drones. Their ship skimmed the surface of a Valorian cruiser, releasing dozens of small robots that attached themselves to the alien hull. The drones burned through the outer layer and infiltrated the ship's systems. Similar scenes played out across the battle. Human vessels, though technologically inferior in many ways, displayed tactics that bewildered the Valorians. They didn't fight according to any rulebook the aliens recognized. In the flagship, Zextral watched in horror as one by one his ships went dark or began moving erratically, their systems compromised. "Admiral," his second-in-command said urgently. "We must retreat and regroup." Before Zextral could respond, the ship shuddered violently. "We've been boarded," reported security. "Unknown devices are spreading through our systems." "Impossible," Zextral said again, but with less conviction. Back on Earth, Eric pointed to a large blip on the tactical display. "That's their flagship. It's the most advanced ship in their fleet." Colonel Rodriguez studied the screen. "Can we capture it intact?" "If we redirect the boarding drones to target their engine room and bridge only, maybe," Eric replied. "Do it," she ordered. Hours later, the battle was over. 3 Valorian ships had been destroyed when they attempted to fire planet-killer weapons. 2 more had been disabled and left adrift in space. The rest, including the flagship, had been captured. For the first time in the Valorian Empire's 3,000-year history of expansion, they had been defeated in space combat. In the command center, Eric stared at his tablet in disbelief. "They're retreating. The remaining ships at the edge of the system are jumping away." Colonel Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. "Begin recovery operations. I want that flagship secured." 2 days later, she stood in the captured Valorian flagship's data center. Around her, human technicians worked to decode the alien computer systems. "You need to see this," Eric said, waving her over to a console. On the screen was the Valorian database of conquered species. Dozens of alien civilizations, many more advanced than humans, had fallen to the Empire. Why did they fail when we succeeded? Rodriguez wondered aloud. Professor Linda Hayes, a xenobiologist brought on board to study the alien physiology, looked up from her own work. "I think I know why," she said quietly. "Look at their brain scans compared to ours." The images showed clear differences in neural structure. "They evolved as apex predators who rarely faced threats," Linda explained. "We evolved constantly looking over our shoulders, expecting the worst. They fundamentally don't understand what they've provoked." Allison looked at the captive Valorian ship around them. "And now they're going to learn the hard way." 2 months passed. On the Valorian homeworld, Admiral Zextral stood before the Imperial Council. His uniform bore the marks of many successful conquests. "The reports from the scout ship are clearly exaggerated," he said confidently. "No primitive species could possibly resist a proper show of force." Emperor Draknar's 7-foot frame dominated the council chamber. "Kraxthor is one of our finest scientists. If he suggests caution, perhaps we should listen." Admiral Zextral made a dismissive gesture. "Kraxthor is getting old. He sees threats where none exist. These humans have only basic spaceflight and still fight among themselves. My battle fleet will secure their planet in days." "Very well," the Emperor said, after a moment. "Take your fleet, but remember, resources, not destruction. We need the planet intact." Back on Earth, Allison Rodriguez, now promoted to colonel, stood in an underground facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, engineers and military personnel from 20 countries worked together with urgent purpose. "The satellite network is ready," a technician reported. "We can track anything entering our solar system now." Allison nodded. "Good. Let's hope we don't need it." She walked to another section where Eric Sanderson led a team examining components based on Valorian technology. The alien scout ship had left Earth's orbit weeks ago, but not before humans had gathered valuable data. "How's it coming?" she asked. Eric looked up from a strange metal device. "Better than expected. Their power systems work on principles we've theorized but never implemented. We've already adapted some of their concepts to our own technology." "Will it be enough?" Allison asked quietly. Eric didn't answer immediately. "I don't know, but we're learning fast." On the other side of the facility, Frank Miller was in a video conference with world leaders. The usual political differences had been set aside in the face of a threat to all humanity. "We must present a unified response," he urged. "The aliens will certainly return and in greater numbers. The President of the United States nodded. All our military assets are on high alert, but if their technology is as advanced as you say— Technology isn't everything, Frank replied. From what we've seen, the Valorians are overconfident. They've conquered so many worlds easily that they don't expect resistance. 3 days later, the warning came. Earth's new detection system spotted multiple large objects entering the solar system. They were moving fast. In the command center, Allison watched the object's trajectory on the main screen. They're heading straight for Earth. No attempt at stealth. Arrogance, said General Clark. They don't think they need to hide. When the Valorian fleet entered Earth orbit, Admiral Zextral was surprised to detect no space defenses. His ships encountered no resistance at all. See? He told his officers. The scout team was overly cautious. These humans have nothing that can touch us. His communication officer turned from her console. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. Put it through, Zextral ordered. Let's hear their surrender. The screen showed Colonel Allison Rodriguez in her military uniform. Her expression was calm and serious. Valorian fleet, this is Earth Defense Command, your advance. Team was warned against hostilities. For your own safety, we now extend this warning to you. Humanity is not what you think we are. Return to your empire, and no harm will come to you. Admiral Zextral laughed, a harsh clicking sound. Bold words from a primitive species. Prepare, the demonstration weapon. Target their largest city. His second-in-command hesitated. Sir, perhaps we should consider their warning. The scout team did report unusual. The scout team were cowards, Zextral snapped. I have conquered 37 worlds. I will not be threatened by creatures who can barely leave their own atmosphere. He turned back to the screen where Allison still waited. Human, watch as we demonstrate true power. Then you will understand your place in our empire. Allison's expression didn't change. We tried to warn you. As the Valorian weapons powered up, hidden systems across Earth activated. Satellites shifted position. Ground-based facilities hummed with energy. In the command center, Eric Sanderson looked at the final diagnostic check on his screen. All systems ready, he reported. Colonel, Rodriguez nodded grimly. May God forgive us, because they certainly won't. Frank Miller stepped forward with his hands open, palms facing upward in a universal gesture of peace. The aliens towered over him, their scaled skin shifting from blue to purple in the morning light. Welcome to Earth, Frank said clearly and slowly. We represent the people of this world. The tallest alien, Kraxthor, activated a small device on his wrist. A moment later, his voice came out in slightly mechanical English. We are the Valorian Empire. We claim this world under the authority of Emperor Draknar, sovereign of 1,000 stars. Frank blinked, but kept his diplomatic face on. Behind him, Allison tensed, and Eric continued taking readings with his equipment. I'm afraid Earth is not available for claiming, Frank said politely. We are a sovereign planet with our own nations and governments. The aliens looked at each other. Their skin rippled in what seemed like amusement. You misunderstand, Kraxthor said. We are not asking. We are informing. Your species will be granted protectorate status. This is a generous offer. Many worlds are simply harvested. Allison stepped forward. What exactly does protectorate status mean? The second alien, Commander Dreklon, answered. Your people will provide labor and resources. In exchange, you will receive Valorian guidance and limited access to our technology. That sounds like colonization, Frank said, his voice still, calm but firmer now. We must respectfully decline your offer. The aliens went completely still. Then their skin changed to a deep red color. Kraxthor's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. Decline? That is not possible. Lesser species do not decline Valorian authority. Eric looked up from his instruments. Why do you consider us lesser? Your technology is primitive. Your bodies are weak. You have barely left your own atmosphere, Kraxthor said, as if explaining to a child. Frank stood his ground. Technology level does not determine worth. We suggest a different relationship, equal diplomatic exchange between our peoples. The aliens conferred among themselves in their own language. Their gestures became animated. Finally, Kraxthor turned back to the humans. Perhaps you do not understand our power. A demonstration is required. Dreklon raised a small device and tapped it. In the sky above, a flash of light appeared. On screens in the command tent 2 miles away, satellite images showed a small, uninhabited island in the Pacific disappearing in a ball of energy. That was a minor weapon, Kraxthor said. Do you now understand your position? The humans looked at each other. Fear showed on some faces, but determination on others. Frank stepped forward. Again, we understand that you have powerful weapons. That does not change our answer. Earth is not yours to claim. Junior researcher Vila, who had been silent until now, moved closer to Kraxthor. Sir, my readings indicate their heart rates and stress hormones are not showing appropriate fear responses. Impossible, Kraxthor said, but he looked unsure. Eric stepped forward holding up his tablet. While you've been talking, we've been analyzing your language. We've already deciphered 60% of your communication patterns. That was a slight exaggeration, but the aliens' reaction was immediate. Their skin paled to a light gray. That should not be possible, Vila said, her voice betraying her surprise. Allison moved up beside Frank and Eric. There's something you should understand about humans. We've spent our entire history fighting, adapting, and surviving. Don't mistake our diplomacy for weakness. She pointed to the alien leader's neck, where a slight pulsing was visible under the scales. Your cardiovascular system has a major junction point there. In humans, we call that a vulnerability. Kraxthor involuntarily raised a hand to his neck. For the first time, uncertainty showed in his 4 eyes. We will consider your position, he said finally. We will return to our ship for consultation. As the aliens retreated back up their ramp, Dreklon turned to Kraxthor. They cannot really understand our technology so quickly, can they? Kraxthor looked back at the small group of humans standing firmly on their planet's soil. I don't know, but Vila was right about one thing. They do not react like any species we have encountered before. The ship's door closed behind them, leaving the humans looking up at the silver teardrop craft. What happens now? Eric asked. Now, Frank said grimly, we prepare for the worst. 6 months had passed since the first Zephyrin ship landed near Natalie's research station. The once small outpost had grown into an international scientific hub. Teams of humans and aliens worked side by side, studying Earth's predators and ecosystems. Natalie stood at the edge of the landing pad, watching as a sleek shuttle descended from the clouds. This was a special day. She had been invited to become the first human scientist to visit the Zephyrin homeworld. Ambassador Tholix stood beside her, his skin displaying the new patterns they had come to recognize as excitement. Are you nervous, Dr. Clark? He asked. A little, she admitted. It's not every day someone gets to visit another planet. You will find our world very different from Earth, Tholix said. Our swamps are peaceful places. No large predators have existed there for thousands of years. John approached with Natalie's bags. Over the months, he had become more than just a cultural liaison. He had helped create the new treaty between humans and Zephyrins that would be signed today. The Secretary General is ready for the ceremony, he told them, and Dr. Clark's equipment has been loaded onto the shuttle. The signing ceremony took place under the open sky. Leaders from Earth's nations gathered with the Zephyrin High Council. As cameras recorded the historic event, the Secretary General and the Zephyrin First Speaker signed the document that would shape relations between their worlds for generations to come. Natalie smiled when she saw the document. On its cover was a simple embossed image of an anaconda, a reminder of the lesson that had brought their species together. After the ceremony, Melix approached Natalie. The young Zephyrin now wore a vest similar to those used by human field researchers with pockets for tools and equipment. I have something to show you before you leave, he said, leading her to the research lab. Inside, a large screen displayed images from a distant part of the Zephyrin home planet, a region of deep canyons filled with mist. "We have been applying your methods to our own world," Melix explained. "Using observation rather than just scans, we discovered something our technology missed for centuries." The screen showed footage of a long, snake-like creature moving through mist. It was silver blue in color and seemed to float rather than crawl. "We call it a mist serpent," Melix said proudly. "It survived in remote areas where our technology couldn't detect it. It uses sound waves to navigate and hunt, similar to Earth's bats." Natalie leaned closer to the screen. "It's beautiful." "How big is it?" "Nearly 30 feet long. Not dangerous to our kind, but a perfect predator in its environment." Melix's breathing membranes fluttered. "Before meeting humans, we would have simply eliminated it once discovered. Now we are studying it instead." Later that day, Natalie boarded the shuttle with Sam and Lisa. They had been chosen to represent Earth during the first scientific exchange on the Zephyrin world. As the shuttle doors closed, Natalie watched Ambassador Tholik speaking with a group of human children who had come to see the aliens. He was showing them pictures of his world, while they eagerly showed him their drawings of Earth animals. Tui. Shuttle lifted off, rising through the clouds until Earth became a blue marble below them. Lisa made notes in her journal while Sam checked their equipment. "What do you think we'll learn from their world?" Sam asked. "I don't know," Natalie replied. "But I think what matters most is what we've already taught each other." As the shuttle accelerated toward the Zephyrin ship waiting in orbit, Natalie thought about Medusa still swimming in the swamps below. The massive snake had never known that its existence had changed how two intelligent species viewed themselves and each other. On her tablet, Natalie opened a message from Ethan, who was staying behind to manage the research station. It contained new footage of Medusa. The great snake had laid eggs. Soon, new anacondas would move through the swamp, continuing a lineage that stretched back millions of years. "Respect, not fear," Natalie whispered to herself, remembering what she had told the Zephyrins that first day. "That's what keeps us alive in a universe full of dangers we don't yet understand." The shuttle docked with the Zephyrin ship, and Natalie prepared to step into a new world, one where humans were now valued not despite their caution but because of it.